military exercises between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Joint military exercises on Iran and Saudi Arabia in the Gulf of Oman with Oman and Russian cooperation. This week now, just taken place. It's been announced in Saudi Arabia and in Iran. Beggars belief. This is the great enemies. God, Bennett. These are. Saudi's been at BRICS, while Prince Charles and Keir Starmer and people like that were down at the Commonwealth Summit. Saudi Arabia wasn't there. Many world leaders weren't there. They all waltzed off to the Russian-China-sponsored summit. This is the beginning of a major geopolitical change in the Middle East. The world is different. It's being reshaped by Israel's incursion into Lebanon. You realize that. You appreciate that, don't you? I mean, you understand the situation. Let's pull back the clock a little. Obviously, October 7th, 2003, this atrocious attack by Hamas on Israel led to unbelievable counterattack on Gaza. 42,000, 43,000 dead, listed as dead, named dead in Gaza, and God knows how many more unlisted so far in the past year and a bit. And then you've got what have you got? Then you had 25th of September. Let's ratchet forward a bit. Hezbollah offers a peace deal, a 3-week ceasefire with Israel. But Israel doesn't want that, despite the fact that it had the experience of the 1996 war with Lebanon, the 2006 war with Lebanon. I was in Israel at the time of the 2006 war. Half the population of the north displaced south as they are now. And Hezbollah offers a peace deal, 3-week ceasefire. I mean, they could have extended that and everybody had gone home. But no, Israel felt it needed to teach them a lesson. So instead of agreeing to that, on the 27th of September, they used a 5,000 bomb to take out a city block in Beirut, including a lot of civilians, and assassinate Nasrallah. Ayatollah Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah. An achievement, you could say. Everybody goes in for assassination now. It's the Russians and the Americans. It's been the fashion since the Russians actually go back further. Since the Americans really made a trend for it when they killed Anwar al-Awlaki. You remember him, the shoe bomber? They assassinated him. But that was years ago. Anyway, the point is assassination is kind of on the cards. The Israelis had drawn an interesting distinction between the supreme leader of Iran and Nasrallah, and they say they won't assassinate the supreme leader, or privately they say so, because he's not a terrorist leader. Nasrallah was. Where are we? Israel has been... 1st of October, of course, Iran bombed Israel. And you know what happened there. The Iron Dome, in theory, it protected Israel, but in practice, of course, the Iran's targets were largely military. The Mossad headquarters in northern Israel and 2 aerodromes, military airports. Plus, allegedly, their only non-military target was allegedly a gas drilling rig in the northern, and not just north of Gaza, northern Gaza, in the sea. I mean, an Israeli gas drilling rig, which they appear to have taken out, but there's no real proper information on that. That may or may not be the case. It could be disinformation. What is certain is that some of their stuff hit. One missile fell short and hit a school. Thank God nobody was in it. But now we have a new geopolitical situation. Iran driven into the arms of Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia driven into the arms of Iran. These two ancient enemies. Israel has achieved this by its war in Lebanon. It just crossed a red line for Saudi Arabia. The prospect of a wider Middle East war was too much for Saudi Arabia, so Saudi Arabia has gone for rapprochement with Iran. I mean, the 96 war in Lebanon, the 2006 war in Lebanon, catastrophes. Now we have the 2024 war in Lebanon, another catastrophe for Israel. It looks like it's losing troops hand over fist. Lost them on the first day. I mean, it's only moved 6 miles into Lebanon. You're aware of that. 6 miles in, nothing further. 10 kilometers. That's as far in as it's got, and not across the entire line of control. It's not actually technically a border. It was a demarcation line in 2000. Not from a previous war. War on war, isn't it? Not across the entire line of control, just in 3 spots, 3 places where there's centers of population across the other side, on the Lebanese side. So very limited incursion. 3 narrow bridgeheads going less than 6 miles into Lebanon. The Litani River is a long, long way off, but on the first day Israel lost 8 men on the first day, and an armored personnel carrier to a handheld sort of missile, a shoulder missile from Hezbollah. And they've been losing people since, as you know, some of it reported in the media. No, the Lebanon war, I mean, the Lebanese spend their time praying in mosques, lamenting and saying, thank God this isn't Gaza. Yeah, well, it may soon be Gaza. God forbid. Forgive me for saying that. But Israel has already lost. It's lost the high ground. Its Lebanon incursion has unified the Middle East. How could it do that? An impossible achievement. And sent them into the arms of Russia and China. Unified all the Islamic countries. There are ancient hostilities that have been there for decades. I mean, just look at it. Joint military exercises between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Even makes the strike on Iran difficult because Israel hasn't got the kind of long-range missiles it would need in quantity. It's got always dependent on its air force. A bit weak that way. And so it was depending on its air force to strike Iran. Obviously, Biden says that's going to take place before the US elections. What does Biden know? I mean, just because he's been told that by Israel. But he has been told some things that Israel will not back down on, because he's given them that defense system, hasn't he? The THAAD defense system, to go alongside the Iron Dome, because the Iron Dome wasn't keeping out, I wasn't even keeping out Hezbollah drones. Hezbollah drone took out a military base inside Israel, 70 dead and 70 wounded and 4 dead, I think, something like that. Anyway, so it's concerning for Israel. So they needed the THAAD system, and America demanded a price, which was that Israel would not hit Iranian oil facilities or Iranian nuclear facilities. So they extracted that price, and Israel needs THAAD to protect itself from in any Iranian counterattack. It's put in with 100 American soldiers who are already trained to operate it. Anyway, so where are we going? We have, let's just recap on key dates. Netanyahu's in power till October 2026. You remember that? That's when the next Israel elections are going to take place. There will not be elections before that. November 5th, Fireworks Day, Bonfire, Guy Fawkes Day in the United Kingdom, is when the US elections take place. Very soon. Donald Trump will win. Let's not bugger around here. Donald Trump will win the US elections. And when he does, then that being over, because obviously Netanyahu does not want to encourage a Kamala Harris victory. So, yeah, why was Biden so keen to make sure Israel did not hit Iranian oil facilities? Because they didn't want the oil price to shoot up in the run-up to the election on November 5th. Because that would, American oil prices go up, then Trump helps Trump, but nothing will stop Trump now. So we have a situation where we're really on, well, I don't know, on a highway to war. Maybe Iran will hold on. Do you think? And Israel will hold back. Maybe till after the US elections. I mean, they told Biden they'd go before, but maybe they'll hold back. Gives them more flexibility with Trump in power. I don't know. It's an interesting situation, very interesting situation. I reckon we're going to see a Gaza peace deal, a ceasefire arrangement between now and Christmas. In other words, after the US election, obviously after the 5th of November, we'll see a peace deal, because Israel will only concentrate on its northern border because it's bitten off more than it can chew. And then we'll have to wait until Easter, I think, for Donald Trump to get his feet under the table to see an end to the war with Lebanon and Iran. Donald Trump does not want war. He's a businessman. You've seen that before with the Trump actions. So that's a given. So where are we at? Where are we at? Where are we at? Israel has reshaped the politics of the Middle East. It's driven the Islamic nations together. It's driven the ancient enemies, Saudi Arabia and Iran, together. This is a brand new geopolitical situation. Just like we saw after 9/11, a new situation, a new geopolitical situation with the war on terror, Afghanistan, Iraq. So now, this has again reshaped the world in a massive way. The war in Lebanon has reshaped the world massively. It would seem it's driven ancient enemies into each other's arms. My enemy's enemy is my friend. Well, something had to happen. Israel's shot itself in the foot again. I mean, none of this really has served the interest of Israel. Israel could have extracted so much out of this, and it's messed up. big time. Of course, thousands have died. But if you're looking at it from a geopolitical situation, you don't want to look at it geopolitically. You want to be emotional. Be emotional then. This is the war with Lebanon is the first war in history in which hospitals have been targeted deliberately. Yes, deliberately. The Gaza war, you say it happened? No, it didn't really. They weren't actually. They were giving warnings, get out. They weren't smashing missiles directly into the hospitals with the doctors and the patients inside. It might happen once or twice, but basically not on an industrial scale. The Lebanon war, they are doing it. What insanity. Is this going to serve Israel? Oh, there are Hezbollah soldiers inside these hospitals. What? Come on. So what? Doesn't give you permission to take out a hospital with its doctors and staff, patients inside it. I'm sorry. It's an abomination. Anyway, so you can get emotional, but that's not really. Let's just be rational. The geopolitics of the Middle East has been reshaped. And God help Israel. Policies won't change in the longer term. The right have to be kept in power in order for Netanyahu to be kept in power. The coalition has to hold until October 2026. Extreme right. Never mind. There's hope. And it's interesting watching the little shifts, which are really big shifts. I mean, Britain announced today that it would give intelligence data from overflights of Gaza to the International Criminal Court. I'm not much of a fan of the ICC. I don't like it. I think it gets in the way of peace negotiations very often. I always disliked it. But that's me. But what is extraordinary to see the little baby steps even countries like Britain are taking away from Israel. And Israel has created a sea of unified enemies it did not have. These joint military exercises between Iran and Saudi Arabia in the Gulf of Oman in the Indian Ocean are the beginning of the rewriting of the political structure of the Middle East and the world, because BRICS is coming in. Russia has always wanted a base in the Indian Ocean. Daydream up till now. Now it's becoming a probability, possibly. God. The whole world is changing, and Israel is doing it. God save Israel. Wow. These are amazing, amazing times. A new future is being shaped right now as we watch. Brothers and sisters, God bless you. God bless.